Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Misfits again this week. Real quick, because I got a stat for y'all. 96% of you guys aren't subscribed, which is crazy. If you enjoy this type of content, influencer boxing, MMA, I cover all of that on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. I'm also starting a podcast with my boy Lucas Acosta called Day Ones. Link will be in the description. Again, if you like combat sports, that's what we talk about there. So make sure you subscribe if you want to be in the loop. Thank you. Now, if you're in the loop, I'm sure you saw that Danny Aarons was on Joe Willer's podcast with Theo Baker, and I don't know the other guy, I'm sorry, to be honest. But basically, it started off with Joe Willer confronting Danny Aarons on why he called him out and why he didn't call Theo Baker because he was also OG of the scene, which is funny.
Starting it, but if that's the case, why aren't you calling Theo Baker?
I didn't fight JJ.
That's true.
I didn't fight JJ.
I mean, is it that you think I would be an easy touch?
Because I didn't fight JJ.
Oh, that's an easy one to knock out?
It's because I didn't fight JJ, and that's the only reason.
Or is it that I've fought KSI Legit ABT and it's like...
This is a good question, you know. Why was it your name?
Which was a pretty good question, though. And Danny Aarons seemed to be a bit taken back by it by a second, but it is pretty true. Yeah, Theo Baker literally did the first influencer boxing match when it was Theo Baker and Joe Weller. But Joe Weller obviously had the bigger fight with KSI, and he's the bigger name. Even Theo Baker knows that. Shout out to Theo Baker, by the way. He seems like a good dude. Then Danny Aarons explained it in a good way. Joe Weller is a huge name, and if he were to make a comeback fight that's somewhat fair, it would be Danny Aarons. Danny Aarons is also a huge name in the UK, and it would just be a huge fight. So that's the main reason. Like, Theo Baker is obviously OG of the scene, but Joe Weller versus Danny Aarons will be a huge fight in the UK. It will be massive.
Honestly, what I'm now saying and what it truly is you just need to be back in there.
Yeah.
Like, the comeback is just crazy. And, like, if I could somehow share that with you, I'll fucking share it with you, man. I'll share it with you. I think it'll be so fun.
And Joe Weller really looks like he's thinking about it in this clip. He's been teasing him coming back to Misfits for a couple of years now. Obviously, he's OG of the scene. I keep saying this. I'm probably going to say it 100 times in this video. But, yeah, he's been teasing him coming back. I think Danny Aarons is a good level for him to come back. He wasn't the best in his debut against a soccer player, but like I said, it's his debut. Joe Weller hasn't fought in 7 years, so I think he deserves a lengthy camp if they do this. Then Joe Weller goes on to say how he's torn about the whole situation and he feels kind of bipolar about if he wants to get back in the ring or not.
I don't know whether this is just a bog standard bipolar or what, but like, one hand will be like, mate, I'd love to jump in and box right now. Like, if the arena was next door, fucking full of everyone, it would be like, mate, let's just fucking go right now. And then I've had it where then, okay, right, I dedicate and I just make my life boxing and I'm training. And then I start to be like, mate, this is actually just making me lose myself. Like, I don't want to be just hurting people for a living or even just like risking my own mind, which is already like, obviously my mind's pretty all over the gaff, as we know anyway. Like, I'm pretty open about it. And it's like taking head trauma unnecessarily. It gets to a point where it's like,
which I respect him for being honest. Not that many fighters talk about how much it weighs on your mind and the build-up. People don't really talk about how much it weighs on your mind in the build-up of the fight, especially if you're an overthinker. I could definitely understand that. It could not be a great sign if you think this fight is going to happen. Joe Weller is saying that, but maybe there's an offer that he gets that he won't turn down. I don't know. He definitely looks a little bit intrigued when Danny Aarons was talking about it. By the way, he's not the most skilled influencer boxer, but I'm a big fan of Danny Aarons. Honestly, the fact that he's able to, like, always be cordial and respectful with his opponents and still have a scrappy nature to his fights. He always goes for it. It's not like he's going in there just for the bag. He's really training hard, and he's really going into these fights. I really respect him, and he's able to always be very respectful. He doesn't play it up for the camera, and he's genuinely funny. I'm a big fan of Danny Aarons. Like, I don't watch his videos like that, but as influencer boxer and a build-up for the scene, I'm a big fan, for sure. Then the co-host of the podcast, which I don't know the name, I apologize, brings up that it basically was a given that this fight was going to happen, and Joe Weller was actually training for it at some point, he said.
I don't know how much we're allowed to go into here, but
go on.
Didn't you have some sort of agreement to have a fight anyway?
Well, yeah, like I had it offered. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, why not? Mate, I started training for it as well.
I was on the train home with Weller, and he was like, you were telling me all about it.
Which I did think I saw some rumors about this. I seen Joe Weller in a bunch of different rumors in the past 2 years of Misfits being around. So you never really know if you could take it seriously or not. Like, he never really, like, ends up doing the fight. And like Danny Aaron says, like with these Misfits fights, sometimes like they just fall through all the time. Like it's just hard sometimes.
Yeah.
What you realize is when you agree something, and this is no shade to Misfits, when you agree something, it means fuck all. It means you could have a contract. I've had contracts signed. You're fighting this guy here. No, I'm not. It never happened.
Like what?
Like, I don't know. It just doesn't like. It just doesn't. I don't know.
I
Like,
guess you can have a contract in that, but like ultimately, if the guy goes, I know I signed it, but I'm not doing it.
But me and Joe both said we'll do it.
Yeah, no, I was like,
Like,
100%.
we had a date
Yeah.
soon.
Because that's the thing.
And then now what? Nothing's happened.
Which has to be frustrating, by the way, especially if you're like really hyped up about a fight and you think it's going to be a really fun fight. Like if I ever landed a fight, I would want it to be a spectacle too. Like, of course I'll be nervous at my first fight, I'm sure. But the spectacle and entertainment aspect of it will probably bring me out. Like that seems so fun to me. But then the podcast host goes on to say that Joe Waller didn't pull out this fight and it kind of just fell through.
You didn't actively pull out. It just kind of like fizzled
No,
out.
I'll be real. Like I started training, right? I started doing it all, and the same thing sort of that occurred whenever that ended up doing boxing sort of occurred, and it's that thing of me realizing that actual just fighting and harming people, it does something to my head that I don't like that version of myself, and it actually eats away at me, like. And training to basically put this geezer down, knock him out unconscious, for my hand to be raised. I don't know. There's something about that I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
And
You
maybe
are-
that is,
yeah,
maybe
no,
like,
for
don't get me
real.
wrong. If I had to defend myself, and if there was something like that, and I like, you know me, mate, I'm like one of the most competitive people.
And yeah, these aren't the things that you want to be hearing, to be honest. The podcast host kind of like gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they didn't pull out the fight. That's not what I'm saying. But basically saying it wasn't Joe Waller's fault. But Joe Waller basically goes back to saying he doesn't really like knocking people out, basically. Which is kind of an important part of him fighting Danny Aaron. So I get he might just being nice. Like Joe Waller seems like a good dude. He seems like he's all over the place sometimes, like you said. But seems like a good dude. They're being very respectful. I would like to see this fight. But if he has this mindset, he needs to be sure that he wants to fight. Like, he shouldn't be like 50-50. Joe Waller needs to be sure if he's going to step in there. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm kind of sure I want to fight. That should never be the case, ever. That's about all the confrontation that happened on that podcast. It wasn't really confrontational at all. They were just really respectful and talking about the fight. If this fight does end up happening, I hope it does because it's huge. That's the main reason, but I think Joe Waller should be sure that he wants to fight. And I'm not sure if that's the case with this podcast now that I watched it through. I'm not sure. Maybe this fight won't happen. I think Danny Aaron versus iDubbbz is the fight. I've been saying this ever since the end of the Danny Simpson fight. So I hope it's either iDubbbz or Joe Waller. I think that's a perfect fight for Danny Aaron's. I want to see him more and more in the scene. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I hope to see him more. He has the right mindset, and he enjoys this. He's, like Joe Waller said, he's not faking this. He really, if you fake this, you get figured out. And Danny Aaron's wasn't the most skilled, but he's game. And that's all that really matters. He's entertaining and he's game. So I'll briefly talk about who I think will win this fight. To keep it quick, because it's kind of boring, Danny Aaron's wins because activity is king. Joe Waller said he's been training. Obviously, I don't know how much he's been training, so maybe he got something in his bag. But he also seemed confident about his knockout power, and he said he can hurt people, and he said he doesn't want to hurt people. So maybe that's the whole like line he'll take if they do this fight. He's like, I don't want to hurt you, but I'm gonna have to type thing. But I do ultimately think Danny Aaron's being active and actually being sure he wants to fight on Misfits will get him the fight. Probably by decision. I haven't seen knockout power from Danny Aaron's, but maybe he knocks out Joe Waller. That would be a huge viral moment, and it will build him into a superstar. So, like I said, I hope this fight happens for sure. It'll be a perfect second fight if iDubbbz doesn't want to fight because he said that he might be done in his last fight. So we'll see. I hope it does. So yeah, that's all I have to talk about today. Let me know if you guys think this fight should happen. Let me know if it's going to happen. Let me know if you think Joe Waller is really game to fight. Make sure you comment your thoughts below. Make sure you subscribe, click that bell, and like the video so I could grow this channel. I really appreciate it. Go in the description and check out the podcast that me and my boy just started called Day Ones. It should be right there for you. The first episode will be coming out some point this week. We're not necessarily sure yet because we're new to editing. But we'll get it done by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, around there. So check out for that. Now, thank you guys for listening to me yap like usual, especially my new subscribers. You guys have been subscribing a lot recently. I really appreciate it, especially here at the end. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to me yap like usual. Peace out.